We are back with Reels Recaps. This week I'm showing you Knock Knock, a 2015 thriller. Warning, spoilers. Be careful and watch out. Evan and Karen lead a happy life with 2 children and their tiny dog in California. He is an architect, and she is a sculptor who is getting ready for her big show. Louis, Karen's personal assistant, enters the home as the family is eating breakfast. He brings the catalogs of her exhibition. Evan jokes with his children and asks if everything is ready for the weekend beach trip they will be taking to their mother. Karen tells Louis that the piece is still drying, and Louis promises to pick it up when it's ready to go to the gallery. Evan is told by Karen that Vivian, his physical therapist, will be at the gallery the following day as Karen and her kids prepare to leave. He is asked to work on the weekend by his children, who beg to go with him. Evan is seen in the rain and darkness working on his laptop and playing music through his fancy turntable. Karen calls him to tell him they miss him. Evan worked late into the night to make 3D models of his designs. He opens the door to find 2 girls searching for someone whose name he does not recognize. The girls reluctantly let him in, so he could use his computer to find out where they should go. Evan gets towels for the girls and goes to get his iPad. He finds the girls in another room when he comes back. Belle introduces herself as the blonde girl, and Genesis is named by the second girl. Genesis says they mispronounced street names to the taxi driver, and now are far from their destination. Evan manages to call them and get an Uber in just 45 minutes. After a brief consultation, the girls ask Evan to dry their clothes so that they won't be soaked when they arrive at the party. Evan gets the girls some extra robes. He then requests Genesis's cell phone so he can try to dry it with some rice. Then, you can see him doing that and making them tea when the girls enter the kitchen to give him their clothing. Evan places the laundry in the dryer as soon as he hears his girls laughing and playing music on an old turntable. When he walks up to them, they are dancing. They start talking about the massive collection of records he has. Evan tells the girls that in his 20s he was a DJ. When they ask his age, they act shocked. The girls then tell him he appears younger. Evan explains that he was married at a young age, and his family is on a trip together. He had to remain home because of work. Genesis gropingly slaps him and says that he looks way too young to be so ripped. The girls hug him. Evan is a little uncomfortable at first, but after Belle shows him a photo of his wife and says that he has a good life, Evan relaxes. Evan is gushing about Karen and the art she creates, which surprises Belle to learn that the entire artwork inside the home was created by Karen. Genesis talks about her art history class and wonders if Karen's sculptures can be found at MoMA. Evan then shows them Karen's art catalog, which she will be exhibiting in LA. They call him and his wife a hot couple and ask about their relationship, which makes Evan nervous. Evan says he is not used to hearing girls talk so freely about their love lives. The girls make fun of him and tell him that suddenly he does sound older. He checks the Uber again. Genesis inquires about his marriage to Karen, and he replies that it has been some time. He explains to her that he has been in an intimate relationship with his wife for the past many years. Evan is forced to think about his answer when the girls disagree with him. They have many things to say regarding monogamy, human nature, and even love. Belle explains that, once they get married, Evan will probably want to have sex with another girl. She tells him that she knows that once they get married, her future husband will want to sleep with other girls. Evan becomes more nervous and asks what their occupation is. Genesis tells Evan that both of them are flight attendants, and they begin role-playing with each other. Evan moves to a different seat and asks where they're from. All of them begin to talk about their jobs and travel. Belle said, "It is best to gain life experience by traveling." They start talking about each other's co-workers and then find ways to bring the topic back to romance. Evan nervously checks the Uber again as Genesis requests to go to the bathroom. He changes the record to one that Belle has chosen from his collection. Evan starts by telling her about the musician, and then she begins to listen intently. She dances, which inspires Evan to DJ. Belle is impressed by his skill when he finds another album to mix with the record he's currently playing. Belle says that it's great that they came to his door instead of going to the party that was scheduled. They had a lot more fun there. Belle tells him that his home is not as fun as when they are there. Belle believes it's destiny they met, and she gets him to dance while telling her things are happening by design. When the Uber arrives, she flirts and kisses him. Belle gets Genesis, and he grabs their clothing and phone. Evan searches for the girls in the bathroom when they don't show up at the front door. They say that it's his surprise, and Evan acts all prudish at first, saying their Uber is waiting. He then finds them completely naked. Evan tries to be stoic at first, and tells them that the Uber is already waiting for them. Genesis kisses him, and at first, he resists. But once they both start touching him, he is easily influenced. Evan and the girls have a trio in the bathtub, and then in Evan's bed. They all fall asleep in the same bed. Evan returns to bed the following morning and puts on his wedding band after he has returned his wife's text messages. As he gets up and walks around the house, he can hear the girls laughing in the kitchen. He walks into the kitchen and finds Genesis cooking pancakes. She offers him some. Evan becomes angry with their actions and offers to drive them anywhere they like. He gets angry when the girls make fun of him. He runs out to answer the phone when his wife calls. Evan says he passed out because he had smoked too many weeds. Karen then calls Evan a lightweight. The girls are behind her as she begins to tell him all about them. He turns around so she cannot see the girls on video and begins to tell her about his project. Karen sees him distracted, and they decide to end the video call. The girls keep on teasing him from behind the glass door. He walks into the house, cursing at the girls and shouting. Evan orders the girls to dress and leave the room. The girls then run off into another room. He finds Genesis in the other room and goes to find Belle. She was in his closet, wearing his shirt. He asked her to be held, and she threw herself on him. Evan brings her to Genesis and lets them have 3 minutes to dress, while he awaits them outside. When he saw that they were both painting over Karen's artwork, he walked back into the room to fetch them. Evan becomes angry and throws Genesis off the sculpture. He then takes the pen out of Belle's hand before asking them what they did. He decides to contact the police because they claim that last night was their inspiration. Genesis, however, tells him it's not a great idea since they are underage. Belle is 15, she claims. Genesis tells Evan that the jury won't. Evan still doesn't buy it. She refers to it as a statutory rape. Belle tells him that she can provide evidence in the event he decides to still call. Genesis tells Evan that the story of the flight attendant they told him yesterday was a film. He's confused by the tale. Evan wasn't sure what to do, so he asked them how much they wanted. The other men tell him that Evan is different and that he should not get angry. Evan asks them how much and shows his wallet, insulting them because they treat them as prostitutes. Belle hits him and says that when the doorbell rings, she is not the prostitute. Evan asks his friends to remain where they are and then goes to the door to find Vivian. His therapist is standing in front. Vivian starts talking, and Evan tells her he feels much better now and does not need more therapy. Genesis tells the woman that she doesn't need her massage. Evan asks Vivian to return inside, and Vivian becomes very upset as she loves her wife. He tells her that she's wrong, but Vivian just keeps walking and says it's what she believes. Evan returns to the house and discovers the girls messing around with the turntable. Belle is pushed away from the turntable, and Evan tries to get both girls out of the home, but they continue to play with him. Evan becomes angrier as Genesis taunts him. He grabs Genesis by the throat. Belle, scared of Evan's taunting her friend, who is still taunting him mercilessly, grabs the statue and hits it over his head. He let her go and called the police to report a burglary. Genesis interrupts his call before he has time to say more and offers him a lift. He drives the family to another suburban area. Evan asks Belle if she would like him to meet her mother when Belle gets out of the car. They don't go in the house, but rather in the opposite direction. Evan returns home to begin cleaning. After cleaning up his kitchen and bathroom, he then attempts to clean the sculpture of his wife. He takes out a tablet that night, believing that the incident is over. Evan was working on his project at home when he heard glass break in another room. He first investigates but does not find anything. He finds a broken photo of his family on the floor when he enters the living room. Genesis knocks him down with his sculpture. Evan awakens tied to his bed to Genesis applying makeup and singing. He asks her to let go of him, telling her that he is a kind person who has made an error, but she continues with her routine. Belle suddenly appears wearing Belle's daughter's clothing, even her underwear. Evan is furious and orders her to remove them, calling her an insane bitch. Belle throws the underwear in Evan's face and dances in front of it, telling him that a girl's daddy is her first love. Evan informs Belle that she is sick, but Belle continues to play. The girl sits on him as he begs for her to release him. This reveals some deep-rooted issues with her father and her problematic childhood. Genesis also writes in her mirror, "It wasn't a nightmare." Belle starts to strike Evan as she compares him to her father. They both reach for it when his phone suddenly rings. They unzip Evan's pants and threaten to take the phone call when they realize it is Karen, who has called Evan via FaceTime. He pleads with them to not do so and assures Belle that he will do whatever she asks. Belle jumps on him to get him to kiss her, while Genesis is recording it and then leaving the room. Evan breaks through the restraints, pushes Belle to the floor, and gets up. He then goes after Genesis. He grabs her neck when he sees that she is eating cake. But the fork goes right through his shoulder. When Belle arrives, she says that they will have to punish Evan because he slapped her. Evan is so in pain that he loses consciousness, allowing the girls to tie him again. The two play with him as if it were a game. Belle is a contestant, and Belle is Genesis. Evan accuses them of being crazy liars, so Genesis begins playing sounds through his turntable. This hurts Evan's ears badly. She stops playing the music when he cries that he could go deaf. Genesis keeps playing the role of a game show and hurts him when he doesn't participate. Evan's answer to the second question pleases both girls. He says that Genesis proved her case, so she makes the sound again. When he finally caves in, Genesis asks another question. Evan is unable to respond and could be punished. The bell saves him, literally. Lewis arrives to collect the sculpture, and Evan is covered up by the girls so that Lewis doesn't notice him. Then Belle wheeled him away into another room. Genesis answered the door and said that Evan was her uncle, and that they were filming in his home. Lewis notices something wrong when he walks into the room to get the sculpture. The girls deny that it was them. When Lewis uncovers the defamation of the art, he sees how the girls ruined it. The girls then tell him that Evan chased them and someone had broken in. Lewis does not believe the girls and calls the police when Genesis moves on him. Unfortunately, she doesn't have the charm to sway him. He sees through her. Lewis runs to Evan when he starts to make noise. When he heard the girls destroying the statue, he decided to first deal with them. Lewis runs to them and shouts, but the fear causes him an asthma attack. He can't locate his inhaler because the girls have stolen it out of his pocket. They then start tossing around his inhaler, making jokes with him. Evan asks them to hand him the inhaler, but Louis falls and hits his head against the base of the statue. They laugh and ignore Evan's pleas for an ambulance to help Lewis. Evan claims that the girls have killed Lewis, while Genesis claims that it was his wife's bad sculpture that killed him. Then they wheel Evan into the house and cover Lewis's dead body in paper to make a sculpture. Evan is trying to reach for his gun. Genesis texts a threat to Lewis from Evan's mobile phone, and the two shovel Lewis's body into his van. They come back to Evan and they continue the game show act. He does not answer but keeps repeating that he is a loving father who loves his family no matter what. Belle, who is a close friend of Genesis's family, spits a picture of the family and says that he treated them like this when he had slept with them. Genesis accuses his family of being victims of his perverted behavior. Evan knows that they are going to kill him and pleads for his life. He says that it was the girls who started this whole situation by taunting Evan, claiming that he is not responsible for anything. Genesis informs Evan that they will kill him at dawn. If she was him, she would not waste time crying. Belle says that this is the only option. The girls then dig him a grave in the backyard and return to his house just so he can use his tablet to contact Karen. Genesis then takes the tablet away, and they change into other clothes in his closet. The girls then deface the majority of Karen's artwork, including his designs and sculptures. They also cut his hair, continue to mock him, and destroy the house as well as Karen's art. Belle releases him from his ties when they discover the gun. Evan again asks her what she wants, and Genesis replies that she would like to play hide-and-seek. She then gives Evan 30 seconds inside the home to conceal himself. She tells them that they will leave if they can't locate him before sunrise. Evan gets the knife as they count down from 30. Evan thinks that they are far enough away and runs outside. Genesis tells him that he's free to scream all he likes. No one can hear him, as no one is home. The girls throw Evan into the grave at dawn. They prop up Evan's head before they start to bury him. He continues to plead for his life as they bury him up to the neck. Genesis pulls out the joke after Evan makes a promise to behave. Genesis tells him to call his family, and they will let him leave if you do. Evan agrees to help, but after Genesis dials his wife's number and hears her voicemail, Evan starts screaming. Genesis removes the gag and says that Karen's voicemail was all she needed to hang up. She pretends to throw a statue on her head, but instead drops it right next to him. They laugh and say that they are not going to kill the man. Belle says it was a joke and that they have done the same thing to all men. They confess to Evan that they are not underage before they depart. Belle uploads the video of Evan and her on Facebook. They then leave him the phone and go out of the house. Evan attempts to remove the video from Facebook before it receives any more views, but instead clicks like. The next morning, when his family returns home, the mess the girls have left behind is shocking.